What is going on, everybody? Welcome to an episode of Friends of Five. It's been a while, but we are finally back. All right, it has nothing to do with the NBA season, coming back in a couple weeks. We just had to take some time for ourselves. Things are going on in our life. Welcome, everybody, to the show. Make sure you get onto our YouTube page, subscribe to the YouTube page, follow us on Twitter, as always. This episode is brought to you by Manscaped. Make sure you buy the Lawnmower 3.0. Use that code 5RSN. All right, because we all want to have really nice balls, especially right before the season starts. Right, Clutch?
Yes, sir.
So what's up, Clutch? Ryan is left for a second, but he'll be right back. All right, so let's get it up, man. Miami Heat, right? What did we do this season that really impacted, our roster?
I think the biggest upgrade that the Heat made this offseason, other than the leaps that we're going to see from Bam and Tyler Hero and a second year of Jimmy Butler, I think the biggest addition would have to be Avery Bradley. Just the fact that they now have a guard who can defend point guards and shooting guards that they didn't have before is going to be such a huge asset going down the stretch into the playoffs. And I think something like that is just – it's something you can't look past. It's one of those big upgrades that they made that you can't put a price on it.
What's up, Adam? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, man. I somehow X'd out myself at the beginning of the show. So I imagine the first question was something along of who was the best offseason acquisition or what was your favorite?
Where'd they upgrade? Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, welcome to the show. Now, we got Precious, right? Achua. We got him on our squad.
I call him Chewy.
Chewy. I think that could stick.
I don't like Precious.
No?
You said what Andre Iguodala is like, your name is P.
Yeah. I'm not calling him Precious. He's got to have a nickname. I don't care what it is. From right now, I'm calling him Chewy.
All right, well, Chewy, you think he ever cracks a starting lineup, or you think by mid-season or so?
No. I think if he gets to the starting lineup, it's right away, or it's next season.
Okay.
I just think the fact that he's not a polished guy, he's more of a project right now because the only thing he has going for him is his athleticism, his hustle, his size.
Right.
He needs a lot of time to really develop in the Heat system. We haven't even seen KZ Okpala, and he's been in the system for a whole year.
Yeah.
And I just think for big guys like that, it's harder to get into the lineup, into the games, even with an offseason, even with time in training camp. And I just think something like that is really tough to evaluate. So I think if he's going to come into the starting lineup, it's either right away because they were blown away by how he did in training camp or next season.
Wow.
All righty. So I saw that the little bit of a debate today is whether Harkless is going to start or is it going to be KZ Okpala? So what are you thinking with that?
For me, I think neither.
Yeah.
I think it's not the sexy move, but what's going to probably end up happening is Myers Leonard. If it were me, I'd rather Kelly Olynyk start because it's such a cleaner fit next to Bam. But what Spo will probably end up doing is Myers Leonard starting. I would love to have some sort of small ball four starting next to Bam. That's the dream, right? And that's what they had in Jay Crowder. But since Jay Crowder's in Phoenix right now, you have to revert back to what they were doing beforehand.
Gotcha. All right, so the starting lineup, it's going to be probably then similar to last year. Kendrick Nunn's going to get his minutes, you would think. I feel like the Miami's going to try their best to create as much trade value as possible. And then we see a comment, Oladipo. I mean, Oladipo is very available, and although maybe for the price tag, he's not the most desirable player, and Bradley Beal might be that guy. But do you see the Heat making any moves by the trade deadline? I know it's very early, but I mean, we didn't see any trades in the offseason, so you'd only suspect. What do you think?
Well, if you just take a look at it from just a common sense standpoint, you have guys that are in their final year of their contract, right? And the Heat aren't going to extend them after this year. So I'm talking about guys that are like Kendrick Nunn, Kelly Olynyk, Myers Leonard, even though he has
the team option.
The team option. He's not gonna. They're not gonna get it's not going to get exercised in a way that he's going to be playing next year. So I do think it's very likely that they make a move. I thought that they were going to move Kelly and Kendrick prior to the season starting.
Yeah.
But because of that condensed offseason and the fact that the training camp was so short, it's better that they have more rotation guys, because the more I thought about it, the more likely it is that we have scenarios where you have 2-3 guys at a time that end up with the virus and they're not going to be able to play. And that depth is going to be huge. You know, so the fact that they have a Goran Dragic insurance policy or a Myers-Leonard / Bam Adebayo insurance policy in Kelly Olynyk is huge. So I think for now they'll keep them, right? But I do think it's very, very likely that they make a trade at the deadline.
But you said, I'm not you. I know somebody said that Kelly and Nunn were informed during, you know, the offseason that they might be moved, right? So, I mean, it's almost for sure that there might be, if somebody's going to get moved during this season before the trade line, it has to be those two people, correct?
I think Kendrick more than Kelly. Kendrick was the one that was informed on draft night that there's a chance that he may be moved. Kendrick, the thing about him is he's still a young asset, but he's an asset you know you're not keeping past this year if you have plans to upgrade the roster in a meaningful way. So a guy like Kendrick, you would rather trade him for an asset now, right? Instead of going into the next summer with him still there and then you just lose him for nothing. So I think Kendrick is more likely than Kelly, but to get a meaningful player in return, you have to package the two to get him.
Gotcha. And so Paulie Bua, is that his name? Have you heard about him? He's the guy that Miami signed as like a two-way deal. He's just like super ripped.
Oh, okay,
you know, he's gonna be maybe, I don't know if he was from, I'm not sure where he's from right now, but anyways,
it's got to be Nigeria.
Okay, the reason I bring him up is
I'm just guessing.
The reason I bring him up is because he's a huge body. They're gonna bring him in to work out, you know, against Precious, against KZ, which I feel like KZ was kind of like the punching bag per se. He's just gonna make everyone tougher. I'm excited about him in general. I'm not sure if we ever do see him in uniform. He might, you know, just go straight to Sioux Falls. Mm-hmm. But the reason I bring him up is because, you know, it seems like the Heat are bringing in guys that they probably normally wouldn't bring in, like Max Strauss or whatever. You know, they're bringing him, and then there's another dude that they're also bringing in. And I feel like the track record for the Miami Heat is becoming like, okay, every person that they bring in is going to be a potential player or going to give potential minutes. So KZ Akpala is up next, right?
Yeah. No, and the guys that you mentioned, the thing about them is they all excel in one certain category, and that's what we've seen recently that the Heat look for in guys, how to find guys that excel in a certain category and then have them embrace that into a rotation player, a starting level player, whatever it may be. So I think KZ Akpala has that potential to be that next guy up, right? When I look at the additions that they made this offseason, is KZ going to be the DJJ replacement, or is that Mo Harkless, right? Where does KZ fit in this equation?
Yeah.
So is he already above DJJ is what I'm trying to say, or is he still?
I mean, DJJ was long.
Right.
And his offensive game, he was spotty with a three, although he can get hot sometimes, and then he was good around the rim. But I feel like KZ's more of just a defensive player, and they haven't really spoke too much about his offensive game. And that's, well, I guess we'll find out what he's all about there.
Right. So when you look at what they did this offseason, you look at KZ improvement, you see Mo Harkless and Precious in terms of front court. So you have those three guys replacing the production of DJJ and Jay Crowder. Is that an upgrade to you, or is that a downgrade?
I don't know, because I mean they both outperformed their contracts, you know, with us. You know, DJJ was a product of the Heat system. Jay Crowder, man, he got open a lot and also hit a lot, but then he kind of fell apart at the end. So I mean, I feel like anybody in the Heat culture is just gonna hit their shots and play, the way that they're expected to.
So, I mean, the way I look at it is I see Jay Crowder. They basically substitute Jay Crowder for Avery Bradley.
Okay.
Because they have that depth in the front court. So they said, okay, why don't we just basically bring in the guard version of Jay Crowder? And that alone, I think, is an upgrade because we know that they don't have any issues guarding fours. At least I don't think. We know that they have issues guarding fast, speedy guards. So the fact that we were able to fix that issue and bring in a guy like Precious, who has a very high ceiling, and a guy like KZ Okpala can replicate at the very least what DJJ did last year, I think that in itself is an upgrade.
Cool. All right, sounds good. So let's talk about a little bit of the rest of the East. That's where I'm gonna. No, I'm gonna go straight to the Bucks. Fuck that. Did the Bucks really do enough? Would you, if you were an agent, for Giannis, would you be, hey, yeah, sign the extension. They did enough for you. This is what you talked about with the, the management. But did they do enough?
I think for him to sign that extension, I think they did. But if it were me, you see, the way I look at it is I look at KD, right? He had the Achilles injury, and yet he was still able to get a max that summer, right? Regardless of what the scenario is. The Achilles is the worst injury that you can have as a basketball player. And the fact that he was still able to get a max contract off of that tells me that the extension for Giannis shouldn't be seen as an insurance policy whether or not he gets injured. So if it were me, if I were Giannis, I wouldn't sign it just on the fact that I want to keep that pressure on the Bucks organization while knowing that max is still out there for me, right? Because even if I had a catastrophic injury midseason, I know that max is still there because Kevin Durant got it. Yeah. Kevin Durant was older than me, and he was switching teams, right? So he's getting less money. So just based off of that fact of the matter alone, it wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't sign that extension. But even if he went on Instagram and said that same day and said, no, I'm going to stay here. This is where I want to be. I'm staying here for 4 years, but I'm not signing that extension just to keep the pressure on the Bucks. So if it were me, I wouldn't sign it. But him, here's the problem. He's a very loyal guy, and that probably has some weight to it in his mind. He might want to show loyalty to the Bucks and to the fans by signing that extension. So, it's
well, that's the only reason why he's in this situation, though, because of his loyalty. Because if not, I think LeBron James would have been gone by now. I think there's a multitude of players that would have been nah, besides Bradley Beal. I think Bradley Beal is the only other guy in a bad, team organization that keeps getting promised the world and never comes to fruition.
Right. And
jumping on Giannis, I feel like for his brand, and this is kind of comparable to all the key superstars. For your brand, you need to be in a big market. Shaquille O'Neal did it, and it paid off, for the rest of his life. So yeah, the max money, you can't really get traded. I feel like once you sign, we see John Wall. You can't really trade John Wall. He's got 2 years left at $40 million or so. So I feel like if he does sign it, he kind of restricts himself for the rest of his career, and you would deplete a team if you do get traded. So, he's probably going to sign it based on everything I've heard. I have a source in Milwaukee, and he says that he's buying a lot of real estate already there. So everybody thinks it's a done deal. John Kuhn came out and said, the fullback for the Packers just came out 2 days ago, said that he's going to sign. So it seems like it's going to happen. But at the same time, I don't think it's best for his brand. But that's not for me to say.
But I like what Clutch said, that just because you don't have to do it, because if we look at Gordon Hayward, nobody thought that he was going to get that money matched, and what did he lose for 1 year? He lost $2 million because I think he was going to sign the player option of $32 million. Instead, he turned it down and got 30 over. Or 30
he lost $4 million, but he gained a few $100 million.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. And he didn't have a good year last year, and he had a horrific injury. So I think I didn't even think about it like that. I don't think it matters anymore about.
Right. So for a guy like Bam, it makes sense to sign that extension.
Of course, yeah.
right? Because you don't know if that max is going to be there. You don't know how he's going to look. But for a perennial MVP like Giannis, 100% whatever happens to you, you're getting that max contract. So, and the other thing is signing that max extension to me signals he's never going to win a championship, because that Bucks team is not going to beat LeBron and the Lakers. They could get to the finals very easily, but they're not going to beat the Lakers. I don't think they would beat the Clippers. Anyone that comes out of the West, I don't think the Bucks this year or next or any year after that would beat them, because what people fail to realize is one of the most important cogs to what the Bucks do is Brook Lopez, and he's getting up there in age. He's not going to be able to produce the same way he's been producing the last 3 years. And if you take Brook Lopez outside of that offense, every team in the league is going to do the same thing the Heat did in the second round.
That's interesting. And also giving up 3 first-rounders for Drew Holiday. Now you can't trade any more picks. Like, the only guy next to get moved would be Middleton, so you have to hope then that he's healthy, has a bomb year like how he kind of did last year, and then trade him for more assets. But that's why the Heat seem like a good fit for because Tyler Hero to Milwaukee, going home.
It fits.
I feel like that makes so much sense. And throw in, I don't know who else, but maybe even Precious or so. But what do they got?
The other thing is if Drew's he's going to be a free agent next year. Yeah. So you have to be sure that Drew is staying in Milwaukee. Man.
Dangerous trade.
The whole situation is really dangerous, which is why you do not sign that extension.
Would you say they messed up last year? Not this year. Last year, I think the problem is that they messed up last year when they didn't sign Michael Brogdon, right? Because they just didn't want to pay him.
Yeah, he would have been a really big difference. I wouldn't say they would beat the Heat, but
I think they would have more leverage, more pieces to trade, more to work with. But I think when you're such a small market like they are, every decision you make needs to, you literally need to do the bare minimum of signing the people that you have, right? Because everybody hits and misses with draft picks or whatever. But when you have a somewhat, decent to, a good to great kind of guy, you got to sign him.
Right. And I think the fear that they had was they were going to sign Malcolm Brogdon to a Tyler Johnson type of contract.
50 mil.
Right. So you either have – there's two sides of it. You either have a guy like Tyler Johnson who gets overpaid and then you can't trade him, or you have a guy like Malcolm Brogdon who it looks like is a big contract, but his production matches it. So even if you think you overpaid, you kept the asset and you can still trade him for more assets. So I think that's the confusion that they had. Otherwise, it's a no-brainer to always keep that asset, which is why I'm confused what the Kings did with Bogdanovich, why they just let him go for nothing. You should always keep the asset.
Yeah, they let him go for free. Like you said, I mean, I'm sure Atlanta would have still probably traded, even, it just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Yeah, Atlanta looks good. They're going to be a playoff team, pretty sure, right?
Yeah,
but Adam, so you thought, or you still think, that James Harden can go to the Nets. What's the probability, would you say?
The longer that this goes on, the more likely it is to a surprise team. Right now, I think the Sixers have a better shot of getting him than the Nets do. And if I were to weigh it all on a scale, I'd say a surprise team has more of a chance than both of those teams.
Okay.
Surprise team like the Heat.
That's
if Giannis signs on the dotted line.
Yeah.
All right. Alrighty. Well, who else would you say in the East really improved their roster? And not just improved that they're making it into the playoffs this year, like Atlanta, but like has a real chance to come out at least to the Eastern Conference Championship.
The team that sticks out to me is the Philadelphia 76ers. They were probably the one team that if they had no injuries, I thought that they would beat the Heat in the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
And I still believe that because they have the things that they have. They just have a bunch of X factors on that team. And they got rid of their JV coach, right? That's one thing. The second thing that they did was they added Danny Green, and not a lot of people know this, but odd year Danny Green is a killer. right? Odd year, Danny Green.
No. I hate added. He's a heat killer, just period.
Yeah. They added Seth Curry, one of the best shooters in the league, right? He doesn't do much, but what he can do is he's a sniper. And they got rid of the Al Horford monstrosity of a contract. And they got rid of it pretty easily, right? So now you're not forced. You don't have all that clutter that you had on the roster before. You can put Tobias at the 4, which is his more natural position. And suddenly that team looks a whole lot better. On top of that, you add a Hall of Fame coach in Doc. And when the roster was completely cluttered and they had a lot of injuries and they didn't have a good coach, they were still the 6th seed, right? Yeah. So I see them. They have a lot of potential.
Yeah.
Even with Doc Rivers, because, I don't know how great of – honestly, he's a great coach, but his track record does speak for his playoffs.
Well, he goes to playoffs every year.
Yeah, he just doesn't,
he just
do much more.
He flopped with the Clippers over and over.
I mean, every time he lost to great teams. I think I read a stat somewhere that he has the most 3-1 blown leads of all time.
Yeah.
As a coach. Is that right? But the thing is, when you win a championship as a head coach, it's not something that, 1 of 30 do it every year. So to win a championship, no matter who's on the team, is a historic feat. And the fact that he was able to do it with the Celtics while Kobe and the Lakers were still kind of in their prime. And I don't know. I just think that Doc, as a head coach, in the regular season, he's a top 3, top 5 coach, right? But it's when you put him in the playoffs with a bunch of other top talented head coaches, that's where you start to see a bit of a struggle. But I think with the right talent surrounding that team, they could be a top 3 seed.
I have a question. So Bam Adebayo gets the max, right? After one good year. I mean, we'll give him an elite year. We'll say he's an elite year. But, man, after one good year. So where do you see – because he has to improve to earn that contract, because they're paying him off of his ceiling per se, because, I mean, unless he does the same thing every year, which would still be decent. But what areas of his game – I could probably answer myself, but in your opinion, what areas of his game do you think he will improve on or that he needs to improve on? Right. I guess aggressiveness and offense, but –
Well, I'll answer that in a second, but I'm going to counter your question with another one.
Yes.
Oladipo had one elite all-star season. Why didn't he get a max contract extension?
I guess he was injury prone, because even with Orlando, he was kind of injured. I think that's probably why. That's the only reason I would say.
But for a max type player, which is what he's commanding, more likely than not, they get the max contract even with an injury sustained, right?
Well, that's a superstar.
It's a superstar, but people thought that Oladipo 3 years ago, he sent – didn't he take LeBron and the Cavs 7 games in the East?
But he was traded to OKC for like nothing. I feel like he was part of,
but he was still a young player.
Yeah, but he was like top 3 pick. He underachieved in Orlando, then gets traded to OKC and has like an amazing season. Playing with Russell Westbrook, he was like the new KD's teammate, and then got traded over to the Pacers for Paul George or so, and also had a decent year too. Right. So he's becoming better, but now he's injury prone. He's been injured in the past, and I wouldn't. Whatever. He could be a future Heat guy, so I'm not going to say anything negative about him.
Yeah. So, I mean –
I don't want it on my record.
Yeah, you don't want the receipts pulled up on you.
Well, there's going to be receipts every anyways, but –
Well, so you bring up a lot of good points about why Oladipo isn't a max kind of guy, but Bam is. See, the whole thing about Bam is he's proven it. He's shown it to you, and he still has the potential to be so much more than what he's already shown. Right. So the thing about Bam is we hear all these stories about how he wowed the Heat during his workouts, about how he shot an amazing amount of times. He shot the 3 ball really well during his Heat workouts. And then You see it in the what was it, the Rising Stars Challenge, whatever it's called, the skills challenge.
Yeah.
Right? We see him hit all these threes against these other very capable 3-point shooters.
Right.
So you know what's coming. You know what the next step of his game is. You know that
Chris Bosh,
he has that in his bag, but he hasn't shown it yet. So what we see isn't what the Heat saw, right? What we see as fans is him listening to what Coach Spo was asking of him to do.
Okay.
Right? He could shoot the ball in practice, and he might be a sniper in practice, right? We don't know that. But what Coach Spo is asking of him to do is, okay, you're going to be a 5-assist-a-game passer. You're going to score 15 points a game, get to the free throw line, help out your teammates. That's what you got to do. Maybe next year it's, okay, now it's time to start hitting jumpers from the elbow, or now it's time to cross guys up and shoot threes. You know, you never know. But I think what a lot of people are forgetting is the front office sees things in practice and in workouts and just in pickup games that we don't see as fans.
Right.
And so that extension may have been offered a year ago because of what they already knew was coming this year, right? So if he had to improve in one aspect of his game, other than offensive consistency, man, it's really tough because I don't see really any holes in his game other than just the offensive shooting side of the ball because he does everything else, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you bring up a good point, right? Like, you don't know what they told him in the offseason before. Hey, you know, we're looking at you and you need to hit this and this and this, and this is your goal. You know, same goal he had with Dwayne Wade. And he obviously hit it. He exceeded it. So maybe they asked him another thing. Maybe Jimmy Butler told him, hey, you need to, you know, because Jimmy Butler, from my understanding, he has pretty much the keys to the decision making that's kind of going, or not like the keys, but he has input, you know. So obviously they had to have run it somewhat by Jimmy, and he must have said, yeah, man. And I think the other factor is that for a while the Heat were looking for like another leader. You know, they asked Josh Richardson to be that leader for such a long time, and he couldn't do it. I think Bam is clear leader, right? And perfect, you know, leader next to Jimmy Butler. One day Bam is going to take over that spot, even if Jimmy Butler, you know, is still here.
Speaking of Jimmy Butler, I feel like Jimmy Butler is due to be like on a maintenance program, kind of like how Dwayne Wade was, where he might get an extra day off here and there because, like you mentioned, Adam, the team has a lot of depth. You know, that's a good. You know, we didn't give up too much in any trades or so. So we have role players, we have players that we want to develop and see more time. So there's no real need to throw Jimmy out and give him those amount of minutes that we saw in the finals and the playoffs, which were like crazy. And you know, he's getting an age, so they got to protect him. Do you see that like a maintenance program at all, or am I crazy?
Well, I don't think he'll accept a maintenance program.
Oh, cool. All right.
Although this year is the year to do it, I don't think he'll accept it, but I think it'll come naturally, just based off of the fact that Tyler Hero is going to make that jump, and he loves Tyler Hero. Yeah. So Tyler might take the points off of Jimmy's shoulders, the assists off Jimmy's shoulders, if you know what I mean. So I think it might just come naturally. So I don't really see that much of a concern. Maybe in 2 years that'll be a concern, but not this year.
Yeah. Do you have any questions for us, Adam?
What are we done?
Not necessarily, but we hit the 30-minute mark. And is anybody watching?
Yeah, I mean, we have watchers and everything.
All right, maybe ask anybody if they have any questions or.
Well, I wanted to ask, how likely is it that Duncan or Tyler get traded this season?
Tyler more likely than Duncan.
Oh, really?
Right, but that's the other way around. That's more because Tyler has more value than Duncan does to a team, right? If Tyler, you know, is a 20-point per game scorer in his second year and he's shooting a high percentage and the team is winning, that, if anything, that just puts it all the more likely that he gets traded in a package for James Harden, you know? But a guy like Duncan Robinson, he doesn't have any purpose for a team that's rebuilding.
You know, you just mentioned that. So the new Miami Heat jerseys came out, you know that, the vice versa. And now they're saying you can't. The Tyler Hero is the first one that you can get, and that's in February. So I feel like he's not going to get traded because of that. And then, they want him to become the most popular player. And then they have like 3 other guys that are secondary, and then everybody else. But Kendrick Nunn is also on that list too. So it's kind of like they like Kendrick Nunn, or because I don't feel like Kendrick Nunn's jersey is even going to sell. So why even mention his name?
I think for the thing about Tyler Hero, he's going to be one of the best-selling jerseys, not only in the Heat, but for the entire league this year. Yeah. So I think just based off of the principle of marketing, the earliest you get his jersey out there, the more profit you gain out of it. Yeah. So I don't know. I wouldn't read that much into it.
So. Don't read into the shirt sales.
But man, I can't believe they're telling fans to wait till February. Man, that's just wrong. Like,
it's not that far.
All right,
you got to produce it.
Somebody, what would you expect a return for Olynyk Nunn would look like?
And a first.
Yeah, throw in a first.
They don't have a first. They would have to unlock it from the Thunder.
Oh boy.
Oh.
So Olynyk Nunn, if I had to guess, would get you LaMarcus Aldridge.
I'll take it.
You'd take it, yeah, but you lose that depth. But it wouldn't be Kelly. It would have to be Iggy, I think. Or some sort of combination. He's 35. I think.
Yeah, he's up there. He's got 2 years probably, but I think he'd be a better fit for the team than Iggy is. Although Iggy has the championship pedigree, he could teach, how to be an all-star to certain players like Hero and so. But for need, I feel like Aldridge. We need somebody to back up Bam or to be a bruiser for Bam, because Bam was getting his ass kicked.
Do we know if Aldridge has any connections with anybody in the Heat?
Oh yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sat down with Riley before he signed with the Spurs. He sat down with Riley.
Yeah, so obviously he wasn't impressed enough by what he heard.
No, he likes the Heat. He likes the prospects, but he can't just go out and say I want to get traded to the Heat. So
there was also he tweeted out something about
but who can you say he's connected to, Clutch? Who's he connected to in the Heat?
Front office?
The front office? That's
the whole front office. No,
any players? Does Jimmy like him?
Not that I can say anything, but there's some. there's a player.
There's a player. Oh man.
Probably Jimmy Butler then. Hey,
no, it's gotta be Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson is making the calls right now.
Well, I saw a question about somebody asked why wouldn't they trade Duncan instead of Tyler instead of paying them. So the question is, like I said, Duncan has more value to a team that's in contention than a team that's rebuilding. What are you going to do with Duncan if you're in contention for the first overall pick? What are you going to do with Duncan Robinson, right? Yeah. What are you going to do with him? You're going to watch him run around screens all day?
It's as simple as saying Tyler Hero has a higher ceiling than Duncan Robinson. So another team is going to ask for the person who has the higher ceiling. I mean,
right. And plus, he has more value to the Heat than for any other team because he's so ingrained in their system and he does what they ask him to do so perfectly, right? Mm-hmm. So for the Heat, he'll command maybe $18 million a year. But if he ends up going somewhere else, he'll only command, $13 million, which is a lot of money still. But to the Heat, he's more valuable.
Yeah, kind of like Hassan Whiteside in a way.
No, not like Hassan.
So going back to Duncan, on the topic of Duncan Robinson, his regular season was phenomenal. Then, you saw his postseason, and I feel like, postseason NBA basketball is a completely different game. Defense becomes like a priority. And he wasn't getting those open shots, and he was getting forced to. You have Coach Spo saying, shoot the fucking ball. You got everybody kind of yelling at him, shoot the ball, shoot the ball. Do you think that the blueprint is out on him per se? He still has success, but do you think going into the regular season, teams are going to know how to get in his face, or do you think we're going to see the regular season again where he's hitting 6 threes a game?
So a few points. The first thing is, the Duncan Robinson that we saw in the playoffs was still the same Duncan Robinson as the regular season. The difference is the following. One, people were comparing him to the production that Tyler Hero was producing, which is not normal for a rookie to produce what he did in the playoffs. So it's a little bit unfair to compare someone like Duncan Robinson and what he did in the regular season as kind of a rookie, right? To someone like Tyler Hero, because he's the anomaly. We saw Kendrick Nunn couldn't even get on the floor. So the fact that Duncan Robinson was able to do what he did in the postseason, which is kind of be able to replicate what he did in the regular season, is a huge plus, because rookies generally, they don't really do much in the playoffs, right? So the fact that we were able to see Duncan Robinson look at the very least somewhat like what we saw in the regular season is huge. And then the other thing is, these teams had days and days and days to prepare for Duncan Robinson and Bam and Tyler. Now, imagine the Atlanta Hawks on a Tuesday night are coming off a back-to-back. Are they going to be able to prepare for the Bam, pick and roll Duncan Robinson, or the Tyler Hero ISOs, or the Jimmy cuts? It's not realistic for a team to be able to prepare for. So I just think he was not figured out. And even if he was, we're going to see a similar level of production this year as we did last year.
My question, I got
which is historic.
I had two questions. This is my first to last one. So last year we saw the Heat play like a variety of different defenses, right? Like from the whole season to the playoffs. The playoffs ended up being like a switch defense. They switched everything. They weren't afraid. They're okay with it. Do you think that we're going to be doing that through the regular season? Or are we going to go back to playing a little bit, more of the traditional zone, man-to-man, and just the way that Spo likes to flip that, every once in a while?
The thing is, before they got Jay Crowder and Iguodala, they were a very one-sided or one type of defensive-oriented team, right, where they didn't have those guys to be able to switch. They were a little flat-footed at center with Myers and Kelly Olynyk. So it was tough for them to be able to play multiple styles. But once they got Jay and Iggy, right, if a team is too big, okay, fine. We put in Myers and Bam, or Kelly and Bam. If a team is small and they like to switch everything, we'll put Jay Crowder and Bam, right? So I think because they have Iguodala and they were able to get Mo Harkless and the ascension, hopefully, of KZ or maybe even Precious, because I think Precious at the very least is going to take Chris Silva's minutes. At the very least. So I think the most impressive thing about this Heat team is their adaptability, that they can adapt to any style of defense, whatever it may be. And in the long run, it's going to be beautiful to watch.
All right, go ahead, Ryan.
All right. So this is going to stick on Duncan Robinson. All right. Last season, historic. Didn't get mentioned anywhere in all rookie teams. I mean, that's an easy all rookie second team. I mean, I saw Hero got second team also. And Nunn got first team, but no Duncan. So that's kind of weird. But if he continues doing what he did last year on, let's say, 5 more years, I mean, he's on a trajectory to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, or am I crazy? But because maybe not, because Kyle Korver he did well and he probably won't be a Hall of Famer. I'm kind of like just thinking out loud, but when is Duncan Robinson going to get the respect of like an all-star, potential player? So someone's saying that Duncan wasn't a rookie. Actually, he would be considered a rookie if he didn't play a certain amount of games. Yes, he was.
I don't think he was a rookie because he played against the Nets with D Wade that one game.
Just so if you play one game, you're not, because Bol he didn't. Okay, so if you play one game, you're not a rookie anymore?
Bol, the difference with him is he only played in the bubble. And because he only played in the bubble, for some reason, that means you're still eligible to be a rookie.
Okay. I mean, I'm thinking, I guess, in terms of baseball, like Major League Baseball, if you play like 15 games or so, the next year you could still be considered a rookie. And then I guess, Blake Griffin and Ben Simmons, I guess they got injured before the season began, so then they could still win a Rookie of the Year. So, all right, I learned something today.
I think Duncan played more than just that one game that season. I think he played like 5.
Yeah, he probably had like 8 games or so. Okay, all right, so he wasn't a rookie. Sorry, guys.
But to answer your overall question, I think if he produces the same way, right, we didn't see a full 82 games with Duncan Robinson and what he was able to do. The rate that he was shooting, he was going to break all the records. Right? It's a shame that we didn't get to see it.
Yeah, for real.
But he was going to break every record.
How many more games do you think he needed to break those records.
From what I remember, he was like 100 threes away from beating Steph's record.
Yeah.
And we had like 20 or so games or
so it would have been close. But
30. It would have been really close, yeah. But the fact is the difference between him and Steph is Steph always has the ball in his hands, right? And he has that green light to shoot from anywhere on the floor, which Duncan has too. But Duncan doesn't get the ball nearly, the same as Steph has been getting it. But I think if Duncan continues on that trajectory and the Heat end up winning titles, not one, titles because of it, then yeah, he has a case for a Hall of Fame career.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. All right,
they need to win titles.
My last question. What seed did the Heat end with during the regular season?
4.
4? And who's ahead of them?
Nets.
I was going to say Celtics.
You don't have to put it in a specific order. Just who's ahead of them.
I actually have an order.
Oh,
I was going to say Celtics first, but when the Kemba news came out, I'm going to drop them down. So Celtics 3.
What happened to Kemba?
Kemba,
he got that stem cell surgery.
He's going to be out injection, yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna be out
I don't know if he's going to be out, but we'll see.
They said like 3 weeks, they said. 3 months or something maybe.
3 months.
I don't remember. I read it on Twitter, so I don't, credit. It said like it could be like a 12. It could be up to 12 weeks. Whatever.
Well, then that's a difference maker.
Yeah, but starting now,
if he's healthy, if that Celtics team is healthy, I've got, I would say 1 Bucks, 2 Sixers, 3 Celtics, Heat 4, Nets 5, Raptors 6.
Nice. All right.
I would say Nets got to be 1, man. Any team that's healthy KD.
You can't forget that Nets team when Kyrie was on the floor, they were a negative team. They were like 5-11 because of that defense that was on the court. That defense was atrocious, right? And sure, KD helps a lot, but a guy coming off an Achilles isn't as durable, isn't as speedy, isn't as fast defensively as a guy his size should be.
Plus,
right?
we always know that these people take time to get assimilated. So it's not going to be till at least a couple months in.
And they're not going to play every single game.
Yeah,
Kyrie and KD. So a lot of people are saying they're going to be the 1 or 2 or 3 seed. No. They're not going to play half the season to get ready for the playoffs.
They're going to do the Leonard and playoff P kind of thing.
I don't think it's something like that because they actually have an excuse. They actually had season-ending injuries, so it's going to take some time for them to come back, and that could help them because it might look guys like Dinwiddie, Jared Allen, Karis LeVert look really good, which would bolster their trade value. So,
all right, man.
Cool.
Yeah.
You want to end it off, Ryan?
Yeah. Thank you, Adam. Thank you for coming on our show.
Sure.
This was a very unique show, and probably a way that we might want to be doing shows going forward is where we get contributors to 5 Reasons Sports, and we kind of just have circle talk and in a way where we can just lend our thoughts and get feedback in general because we appreciate we watch what you do, Adam, and you've done some great things and you have some great insights and you have a great following and you get great feedback. So I feel like that means you're doing a great job. So
thank you.
So thank you for coming on our show on short notice, and we look forward to everything else that you have to do. And like you mentioned, you teased a little bit. You're going to have something coming up with 5 Reasons, so we're looking forward to that. What time does that come out?
I have something in the works. It's a show. More details to come soon. But one last thing on the Heat. I don't think the team is finished. I think they're going to add another starter. Could be now, it could be at the trade deadline. I just think that they're missing a starting 4.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we were supposed to get somebody this offseason, just doesn't feel right. And we have a lot of depth, so there's still time.
They're missing someone.
But
Danny Gallinari, whatever his name is, he messed up, man. He messed up. All about this, I just want to win, and it's not about the money.
If he were on this roster, they would have unlocked a Warriors type of offensive production.
My God. Now
just
we have
the fact that you have Gallinari on the wings with Hero and with Duncan with Jimmy as sort of like the slashing and Bam as the Draymond. Like, he messed up.
All right. Well, we're going to keep a lookout for the Aldridge news. That way we can credit you first. All right. And then you can say who he's friends with, and all that stuff.
Yeah. Then I'll say it. Yeah.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much, Clutch, for being on here with us. And thank you, everybody, for being on here with us. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Follow Clutch. He's always got some good info. Follow Ryan. He's always giving away free stuff. And follow me because you should follow me. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And we'll see you next time.
All righty. Have a good night.
Peace.